Hey, how's it going everyone? Today we'll be talking about Boruto versus Kawaki at every point within the series in a strength and battle perspective. So if they go head to head in a fight, just the two of them, who will win and who will lose? Obviously, I'm not going to be going chapter by chapter, but instead I'll pick a few different versions of them from where there's any significant change in strength on one side and making a new entry there. There also has to be a corresponding version of Kawaki or Boruto to go along with each other, so I can't do Mujina Bandits arc Boruto or Momoshiki arc Boruto, as we just don't really have any information on Kawaki to use for those points. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, you'll understand as the video progresses. But one last thing to get into is what happens in the case Momoshiki emerges or one of the fighters lose control. And that's I'll be counting it as a loss. If it's Kawaki versus Boruto and Boruto himself isn't able to win but Momoshiki takes control of his body, then that's not really a Boruto W here, that's a win for Momoshiki. So any interference like that, it will be disregarded and shut out. Let's begin. Starting here with the Kawaki arc, and this one actually gets split up multiple times since it is a lengthy arc. So first off, we got the Garo fight of Kawaki versus Boruto, which actually extends a bit into this arc, but basically it's the version of Kawaki where he has his basic karma activation and no real ninjutsu experience. And Boruto can't activate his karma at will and doesn't understand how to use the absorption aspect of it either. Starting with them in base, it's honestly not really a straightforward answer because it's not one we get to see in the manga fully, but we do get a direct hand-to-hand fight between them that I know we've all seen. It's pretty iconic. Naruto broke it up while on the toilet, and the anime clip of it went viral on YouTube. It has over 10 million views. But yeah, hand-to-hand wise, these two are shown to be as relative as can be. No one gets more hits off on the other, and neither of them are massively on the back foot during the fight. But I don't believe that to be the whole truth. Before Kawaki fights Garo, he is found unconscious next to a bunch of broken puppets that even Team 7 with Konohamaru struggles against and couldn't outright kill. Yet when Kawaki wakes up but has some explosion of power from him, Konohamaru says he really was the one who took down the puppets, clearly talking about the pure power that exerted from Kawaki while in base. Then factoring in the Kawaki versus Garo fight, before the karma was activated, Mitsuki says he's fast, after seeing him swiftly jump out of the way of Garo's explosions and get behind him, all while Team 7 is still stuck on the ground. Something else to note is that Kawaki also quote-unquote took Garo's chin, and I can only assume this was while in base because when Kawaki first activated his karma, Garo shouted, "I wasn't told about anything like this." The keyword here is "like this," meaning he most likely has never seen Kawaki use karma, and let's say he has, it definitely wouldn't be him having the explosions from it, because that would classify under something he would have seen, so a younger Kawaki did in fact injure Garo enough to force him to wear a mask. Where it strays away from Kawaki's dominance is when you factor in the ninjutsu training and skills Boruto has that Kawaki really has no knowledge of. He's never seen Boruto fight or use ninjutsu, he's only seen him absorb jutsu with the karma, so this definitely gives Boruto an edge, but Kawaki also has his own moves with a scientific ninja tool body, allowing him to get that huge sword-like arm and launch projectiles out of it, which then gives him something over Boruto as well. Like I said, it's not a clear-cut answer, but I think from what's been shown, Kawaki's base is a lot more impressive than Boruto's here. Even if you factor in the ninjutsu and ninja training Boruto has over him, Kawaki's raw durability, speed, and strength seems way more impressive to me than what Boruto has. But I'm also open to being swayed to Boruto winning this because in all honesty, in my mind, I had Boruto winning in base by a mile before I even started making this video, which is pretty interesting. Now if we talk about what happens when we allow karma into the equation, this shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone, but it's way more of a buff to Kawaki than it is to Boruto. Since Kawaki would surely activate his and it resonates with Boruto, it's safe to say both of them will be having it activated, but Boruto has been shown not to be able to use it well or really use it at all. During the training that happens just a few chapters after this fight takes place, Boruto couldn't absorb anything from Kawaki, so Boruto's amp is just that of stats in a sense, while Kawaki gets his own stats boost as in, strength, speed, durability, all of that, plus the ability to absorb all of Boruto's ninjutsu, which is a complete game changer. This matchup here is just a landslide for Kawaki, honestly. There's not really much you can say to change my mind on that, so 1-0 in Kawaki's favor. Next matchup is kind of a shorter one with less to talk about because it's right when Jigen appears in Naruto's living room and Kawaki is revealed to have unlocked Karma V2, which is a huge amp of everything. Strength, speed, durability, power, you name it, it's amped. This is not only proven by feats and things later on in the series, but by this statement from Kawaki saying, "And I feel like more power is entering me than before," when talking about his karma. This also happens to come after he does a bunch of ninja specific training, so he now understands the basic concept of ninjutsu and has the ability to walk up trees and all that basic chakra control stuff everyone learns in the start. During all of this, Boruto hasn't shown any signs of getting stronger to the extent Kawaki has, and also doesn't have Karma 2 or anything to combat his rival's upgrades. So like I said before, it's a much shorter one than the previous entry, but hey, Kawaki learns basic ninjutsu and now understands the concept of chakra, which buffs his base but also improves his Karma 1 and now Karma V2 form, so he's just much stronger than Boruto at this point. 2-0 for Kawaki. Next matchup is post Jigen death Kawaki versus Boruto, and it's by far the most drastic turn of events power wise for Kawaki as he loses his karma. Yeah, his main source of power is gone and he basically sucks. Well, he does until he awakens his new and improved karma that was secretly implanted on him, but yeah, this version here is losing to Boruto, who I don't need to explain any further. I mean, we literally see the fight happen during a sparring session and Boruto catches Kawaki with a thunderclap arrow, ultimately winning the duel. Plus, Boruto knows how to activate his karma by himself at this point, so yeah, this is just a Boruto W here. The current score right now is 2 wins for Kawaki and 1 for Boruto. Moving on, we have Kawaki after reawakening his karma during the code fight, so chapter 66 versus True Essence Boruto. So if you don't know or maybe forgot, Kawaki lost his karma like I said earlier after Jigen died, forcing Ashiki to resurrect into Jigen's dead body and therefore losing the mark on Kawaki because it wasn't finished extracting the DNA yet. And Amato, when reconstructing Kawaki's right arm, rebuilt the karma in the form of a pure power source and has to let Kawaki truly desire the power from it in order for it to come out and activate again. So that's pretty much what happened in short. To explain Boruto's form here, we will be taking his True Essence version, and that's basically his counterpart to Kawaki's new upgrade where he can utilize Momoshiki's power and battle experience without losing control for a short amount of time due to the drugs Amato gave him. The thing with this matchup is we kind of do get to see a very similar version of it with Borushiki versus Kawaki when they fight during the whole code battle. I think we all remember that one, but this matchup's going to be a little different from that as like I said earlier in the rules, since Momoshiki was in control during that time, I can't count that as a Boruto fight. So this will just be Boruto when he's able to remain control but still use the true essence of the karma. Since it is very similar to that fight though, it's a good way to kind of scale and judge these guys on how they match up, and if you go back and read the fight, they are fairly even in terms of like everything here. The fight was a constant back and forth. It really is just like two guys with no real insane edge over the other one fighting. But that being said, it seems to me like Borushiki was on the back foot towards the end of the fight. And I'm not talking about him getting hit by all the chakra rods, but that only happened because Boruto actually woke up. You can tell by him reopening his eye and the shock emotion displayed by Momoshiki. But leading up until that point after the clash, Kawaki did start applying pressure that Borushiki couldn't keep up with. So I would give the edge ever so slightly to Kawaki here in this fight, but it overall was pretty even. Relating that to the focus of this matchup though, True Essence Karma Boruto doesn't have the same power as Borushiki, but is actually significantly weaker for multiple reasons. Firstly, there's the statements from Code and Ida as soon as Borushiki comes out, with Code saying, "ridiculous destructive power, so totally different from Boruto's karma strength. So this is true Otsutsuki power." And then there's Ida telling Code he should retreat because there's no way you'll hold up against an opponent that powerful. Other than those direct statements putting Borushiki over Boruto, there's the fact that the arsenal of jutsu he uses is different than that of Boruto, with the Rasendan or Rasen bullet, whichever you like to call it. I'd even go as far as saying the massive Rasengan, which is something Boruto has never done or attempted himself, and if he could do it because of the experience of Momoshiki and power granted to him by the True Essence Karma, he would have done it against Code when he had the opportunities to do so, but he just never thought of it or couldn't do it. So I'd say Rasendan and Massive Rasengan are just two things Borushiki can do, but Boruto just can't. The next difference between the two versions is the time limit, or more specifically how long till Momoshiki takes over his consciousness. This is the biggest thing for me here, and it's obviously the most important factor when it comes to this specific matchup because of the rules I stated earlier. But yeah, Boruto didn't last long in this fight while in true essence, and it's not from any damage he sustained or any form of chakra loss either. It was just the side effect of the karma and the drugs from Amato. This means there's no way for him to prolong this form or fight differently or anything to be done to make sure he doesn't get taken over, which is problematic because once again, if he does, then this won't count as a Boruto W. I think you guys can see where I'm going with this, but we get to literally see a fight take place between Kawaki and a significantly stronger version of Boruto, which did end with Boruto slightly being on the back foot, but if you want to call it a dead even fight, then sure. So now we take that information and slap it onto this one with, like I said, a huge skill disparity on Boruto's side, who also has a time limit before he inevitably drops to the floor being unable to fight, and yeah, Kawaki edges Boruto out, unfortunately. This whole time, I haven't even mentioned the fact that both Borushiki and Kawaki should be able to fly at this point in the series either. Borushiki was shown flying against Boro very early on, and since it's Momoshiki in control, yeah, he's able to fly. And Kawaki has his new reconstructed karma, which allows him to fly as well, and while we never explicitly see him do it at this point, he does have all of Ishiki's experience, so he should in theory be able to do so. But let's say you don't want to allow Kawaki to fly because he himself hasn't shown the ability to do it. Neither has Boruto in his true essence form, so he in theory should be able to fly as well, but he hasn't yet done so himself, so the flight ability doesn't actually change or alter this in any way. 3-1 for Kawaki. The last and final versions of these characters I want to talk about is the current Boruto and Kawaki, which is 2 blue vortex, and as of now chapter 13 is out and it's the latest, but by the time this actually goes out, who knows, maybe chapter 14 goes out, but as of now it's chapter 13. So unless some huge development for the characters happen, this will be the current them, and let's say later on obviously they will get stronger. I will leave a link in the description or the pinned comment to the newest video I'll make specifically covering that matchup. For this one specifically, it may seem very straightforward, but it's actually not at all. At first glance, you'd think, oh, Boruto wins, blah blah blah, he's so strong in the time skip. And yes, you're right, he is strong, but when it comes to these two actually fighting to, let's say, the death, like this video has been the whole time, certain things could happen that drastically change the outcome. Firstly, let's get each other's strength and scaling out of the way so we first know where they are compared to each other. Then I'll talk about the matchup and how things could go differently than what the scaling looks like at a surface level. I would also like to add in the small point of this is post time skip, so basically anything before this point scaling wise doesn't matter a whole lot. All of these characters have gotten stronger, and I feel like I shouldn't need to say that, but every video I make about strength and things like this, people bring up anti-feats from a weaker version of a character to try to discredit a stronger future version of that same character. It's honestly really annoying. It's kind of like saying since a baby got beat up by a cat, that means when that same baby turns like 25 years old, it will still lose to anything cat level, you feel me? I don't know, it's dumb, you guys should get the point. It's actually really easy because we have direct statements and feats that easily put Boruto way above the likes of Kawaki, and I'm going to only be using the most important and prominent and best scans for this, as there's obviously more things to be said like with the claw grimes, but that doesn't really matter too much when we have all these other surefire ways to put one over the other. Like for starters, we get Boruto swiftly dodging a surprise attack from base Kawaki, which on second thought isn't that impressive because he should be able to sense him coming as well, but there is the surprise expression thing drawn on the page to kind of imply he wasn't ready for the attack. Then there's the banger of a statement from Mitsuki where he's saying, I think I understand your power level. It must be way off the charts to make code retreat, which tells me Kawaki is no match for you right now. Which, you know, is kind of an insane statement to just blatantly throw out there, but it does have its issues, like how can Mitsuki exactly know how strong Kawaki is when there's been no sort of fight he's had to partake in since the time skip, but at the end of the day, it's still crazy. There's a few more little things I skipped over, but onto the actual biggest piece of info on how these guys actually scale to each other. We can just look at their fight that happened where Kawaki got absolutely clowned on. I'm sure you guys have all read or seen the panels, but yeah, Boruto sidesteps Kawaki's chakra rods multiple times and he lays him out with one punch after dodging Kawaki's mutation scientific arm transformation. So boom, done, right? Boruto's proven stronger than Kawaki. Well, not exactly. You see, Kawaki was actually in base the whole time, not Karma 1, not Karma 2, but base. And if you watched my Why Kawaki is so weak in 2 Blue Vortex video, which I 100% recommend you do watch, it's genuinely one of my best videos, but it basically describes how Kawaki's true strength is in his Karma seal and not while he's in base. Even when it comes to the time skip, we have no way to actually tell right now what a Karma 2 or Karma 1 Kawaki is capable of, so we have zero clue where his peak or max potential he can get to right now. This leads us perfectly to the biggest thing when it comes to this particular matchup as well, which is when Karma is activated, Boruto's Karma will resonate and it will forcibly activate against his will, which he can't just willingly turn off. And it's such an issue that when this happens, he is forced to leave with urgency from both himself and Caution Koji to let it settle down. Keep in mind, while he is leaving, all of his friends and his sister are getting packed in by the Shinju, and no one is able to stop them or rival them who isn't Boruto himself. So yeah, basically if his Karma activates, it's wraps. This means if these two were to full on fight again and Kawaki uses his Karma, which he would, Boruto is actually forced to leave and distance himself. He literally cannot fight while Karma is activated. The only way this fight could happen and Boruto wins is if it ends before Kawaki uses his Karma, which in all honesty it would. And that's kind of already been proven by the fact it happened. And Boruto just decided to chit chat with the dude because he doesn't want to end him. So strip away that moral compass of his and make it a fight to the death and Kawaki will lose. I'm definitely giving this point in favor of Boruto because he just outclasses Kawaki in every way imaginable other than being a fraud. But Kawaki could technically win if he activates Karma off rip and makes Boruto's resonate, forcing him to either retreat and run away or let Momoshiki take over, which is what I'd assume would happen. So yeah, there's a way for Kawaki to win this despite being weaker, but it's a Boruto win. This makes the final score 3 points for Kawaki and 2 for Boruto, which is pretty surprising to me. I came into this thinking Boruto is going to win majority of the matchups, and it actually ended up with Kawaki being victorious overall. Hey, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please check out my Discord channel. We chop it up in there daily. Other than that, go watch some of my other videos. There's going to be something you'll enjoy. I promise you that. Let me know your opinions about these matchups and how I ranked them and scored them, and have a good day.